U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken will depart Washington today for his visit to China. The trip was originally scheduled in February, but was delayed after the U.S. shot down a Chinese spy balloon. Blinken is expected to hold talks with Chinese officials during his visit and could possibly meet with President Xi Jinping. For more on this, let's bring in Ian Johnson. He's a senior fellow for China Studies at the Council on Foreign Relations. Good to have you, sir, with us this morning. So, as you're well aware, the Biden administration recently confirmed that China has been operating a spy base in Cuba. To my knowledge, I don't know that the Chinese have been that active in the Caribbean. And if they have, please let us know or inform us. But in this particular case, how is it exacerbating tension between Washington and Beijing?
Yeah, I mean, I guess we all know that countries spy on each other. They've been doing that for ages. I don't think we knew that they had this level of capability so close to our borders. They've been doing it since 2019, apparently, and are building that out. Now, to be fair, we do the same thing. We fly planes down the Chinese coast, just 12 miles off the Chinese border, and listen in on them too. So I think that for them, maybe this is a little bit sort of payback because they want to listen and find out what we're doing. But it certainly doesn't help the optics of a visit for Blinken to be going there when there's yet another sign of the fundamental differences and tensions between these two countries.
President Xi visited Russia earlier this year. We know that they had, at the beginning of the war with Ukraine, or prior to the war with Ukraine, expressed their kind of never-ending sort of relationship, unbreakable relationship. And I don't know if I'm reading this properly, but was there a birthday message that was also extended between the two? Because I'm looking at something about a birthday message. But can you talk to us a little bit about China's role when it comes to the conflict in Ukraine and whether or not it's helping or hurting?
Well, I think for China, this is probably something they wish would go away. I don't think that they really figured that they would be engaged, that they'd be supporting a country that had just was invading another country. It looked pretty embarrassing that Xi Jinping spoke of their unlimited partnership with Russia just before the invasion. It looked pretty bad. I think that China, though, doesn't want to see Russia fail. It doesn't want to see Russia lose the war and, say, Putin to be thrown out of office or for his support to collapse. But I don't think they want to violate the sanctions either and get into a huge dispute with the United States. So I think they're doing basically everything that they can do to support Russia. And that involves buying all the oil and gas that Western countries are now not buying. China needs energy. They've already years ago began to turn toward Russia, realizing it's safer to build a pipeline from Russia to China rather than having to ship the stuff through the oceans, where the U.S. could, in the event of hostilities, could interdict it. I think that they feel that Russia is a better partner, that they want. So besides just buying the oil, they're selling them heavy trucks, things like that sort of have dual use that you could use in a war, but they're not selling them, to our knowledge, tanks and artillery and things like that Russia desperately needs. But dual use drones, I think everything short of violating the sanctions, they're doing to support Russia.
And I just want to say, Putin did send Xi a birthday telegram yesterday. He turned 70.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, there's always been that relationship between China and Russia. But President Xi has enacted a much more forceful policy when it comes to Taiwan. I mean, oftentimes it feels as if there's a lot of saber rattling, and certainly the media has a tendency to sort of report things as if they're imminent. But I wonder if we're often reading too much into those tensions, which have existed pretty much since Taiwan declared its independence. And is there anything that the Secretary can do to cool tensions?
I think, there's no doubt that tensions have risen in the past couple of years. There was talk in Washington last year. It was almost gospel truth that China was going to invade Taiwan by 2027. Now people are kind of backing off that because it doesn't look like there's really that much evidence. For China, it would be a giant gamble to invade Taiwan. If it's a really complicated military maneuver, it would be betting the house on, lucky 13 or something like that. And if they fail, then the regime in Beijing, Xi Jinping's government could collapse. So I don't think it's something they want to do lightly, but they are not going to give up Taiwan. I think for Blinken, he can go there and just reiterate the U.S. policy, which is that we do not support Taiwan independence, but we also don't support any kind of military intervention in Taiwan, and that Taiwan's future should be left to the Taiwanese people to decide on their own without outside powers, including China, from telling them what to do. And I think that kind of clarity in the long run is probably going to be helpful. But this is like a stepping stone visit. I think Blinken's going there is part of a series of efforts, of steps to try to cool down tensions between Beijing and Washington.
So a win is just don't make it worse, basically.
Right.
Ian
just
Johnson.
go there, get it done, get home without a crisis happening, sort of thing. Yeah.
Right. Ian Johnson, thank you very much.
My pleasure.